Hey everybody. So I'm going to be setting up a shrimp breeder for Neocaridina. And there are going to be some things about this that are slightly different for Neocaridina versus Caridina or like a mono shrimp or glass shrimp or any other kind of shrimp or any other kind of breeder. There's a few things that are going to be different about this. And then this is going to be function over form. I really don't care about how this looks as long as the shrimp are happy and they have a nice little habitat. So let's start talking about things. The actual like filtration and stuff like that is going to be super cheap. A 10-gallon tank, you really only need a 10-gallon to breed shrimp. You could go bigger, but this is kind of all you need. So let's talk about filtration first, right? What is this? This is an undergravel filter, like okay, boomer, right? It's there are a lot of benefits to having an undergravel filter. There's you can do all kinds of things with the substrate that's in an undergravel filter that you can't do with other things like a sponge filter, for instance, or a hang on the back, or just there's different things that you can do with substrate in a specifically even in a shrimp tank, because you see a lot of people where and this is especially true with Caridina shrimp, where they're adding in like special kinds of soil like aqua soil or like volcanic lava, whatever, something that will buffer the pH, get the pH to a certain level and the water hardness to a certain level, even going through the trouble of doing reverse osmosis water and, deionized and all that, and then adding the minerals back in to get a very specific like water hardness and pH and, all that to breed the the Caridina shrimp, the very, very fancy, ones, or like discus fish, where things like that. But Neocaridina, and this is part of why I'm a Neocaridina guy, and why I want to set up this tank this way is because where I live, we have hard water, right? Neocaridina like harder water, Caridina shrimp like softer water, and basically the water where I am, I can just dechlorinate it and toss it in there, and then the shrimp are going to be happy. And then there's other things that I can add, like almond leaves and these just little kinds of things like stuff like that will release tannins and sort of soften the water and do things like that that are just going to be nice little, like, the shrimp love stuff like this, where they can kind of climb around in it and hide in it and do stuff like that. So that's going to be optional upgrade stuff. So I want to talk about the undergravel filter again, right? This is one section of one of these, and then this is I had this lying around. This is a setup where you can sort of build your own undergravel filter however you like. And like if I want to put it into a funny sized aquarium, then I can sort of snap these together like Legos and then lay them out exactly how I want them. And then they will, the water can like flow in between. It's a pretty tight little connection. But what is that, right? I like to eat a lot of turkey sandwiches for lunch. So I typically I hang on to these. So I've got some Cuba or some Micranthemum Cuba going in here that I'm trying to propagate. So in fact, I'll probably put some of this in here. Like I've got some floaters, I've got some red root floaters, and then I've got a little bit of flame moss in there, and I think that's baby tears, dwarf baby tears in there in the little substrate. So I can just take this stuff out, and then I can, pop it into the substrate if I want to try to propagate something. And since there isn't a ton of flow in here, it's gonna be able to put its roots down, and it's not gonna get, picked up by something that's mouthing the gravel or what have you. And then I can just sort of pop it down and maybe cover it a little bit, and then it'll go ahead and propagate in there, and your shrimp will be super happy and love you for having some nice plants in the tank with them. If you can get something, I don't have any in here, but if you can get something like I do, the flame moss in there is more of a fast grower. It's not quite as fast of a grower as something like Java moss. Java moss is a very fast grower. Red root floaters are pretty fast growers. The the flame moss takes a little bit more time. It doesn't grow quite as fast, but it will like ball up, and you can get like a nice ball of this stuff kind of growing where it will be floating. And shrimp love floating plants. So also fast growers like red root floaters, they're going to have their little roots down there, and they're going to propagate. They're going to be putting out lots and lots of little baby plants, and they're going to be eating up a ton of nitrates. So if you have a lot of nitrates in your tank and you're trying to kind of control them with less water changes, one thing you can do is add some fast growers, some red root floater, or even duckweed. I would not recommend that. Duckweed is it's uncontrollable. It's fish tank herpes. But you can, if you want to, you can in your tanks. I like red root floaters. I think it's pretty attractive, so I would recommend that. So to set up these guys, what I did was I just popped one of these, built one of these little guys like this, and then popped it into one of these that I wasn't using. And this is for another video, but I just hang on to these, and then if I want to propagate some kind of plant and have it immersed, like where its little leaves are out of the water, and then it can get access to free CO2 in the atmosphere, then they typically do better like that, and then you can take clumps of it out. And then this is just some like kind of gravel kind of stuff that is porous. So, and then I have some what is that? Sphagnum moss in there to kind of keep things like moist and stuff like that. But yeah, again, another video. But we're in a room, right? We're in a room that it stays a certain temperature. I mean, there's no heater, right? There's no light on this tank. And you can see that it's staying, if you look at this little thermometer right here, you can see that the temperature is hanging right around 70 degrees. And even when this room gets pretty warm, because it gets a good amount of sun in here, it's still going to hang kind of around 70 degrees inside the tank. Neocaridina prefer cooler temperatures. You don't really need to put a heater into a Neocaridina tank. If the temperature in your home is around like 70 degrees, if like most people keep their thermostat closer to like 70 something, 74 or whatever, um, that's great. Like they're happy. They're happy as a clam. They don't want it to be like 80 degrees or whatever. They want temperatures from around like 60 to 80 degrees. Like when you get up to 80 degrees, they're not happy. They're like overheating. They're like colder water invertebrates. So sponge filters, right? Sponge filters are super cheap. They're great. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to like about sponge filters. So yeah, let's talk about price real quick. On this guy, I checked on Amazon, and you can get a box of these for like $15, and then they don't come with enough of these little lift tube pieces for like each one of these little sections. But you can buy the lift tubes, like a separate bag of lift tubes like this for like $8. So you could make a whole bunch of these box things, these under gravel little filter box things, and then just pop them in there. And then the sponge filters, I got this box of sponge filters, four sponge filters, which are like plenty big enough for a 10-gallon tank. Four of them for $14. So yeah, that was on Amazon. And then so why no substrate in the bottom? Why no under gravel filter? If I love under gravel filters so much, why no under gravel filter in the bottom? So shrimp, this is going to be a monospecies tank. It's going to be only shrimp in here. And why no substrate? You don't want your shrimp competing with anything that can live in the substrate for food, like detritus worms, specifically detritus worms. So if you have a tank and then you have a good amount of substrate and then you have like stuff that's living in there, most of the time you're going to have something in there. Like just most people, like if it's a community tank, it's going to have some cories in there or some kind of little, catfish or whatever, like something that's going to be cruising on the bottom looking for detritus worms for a little snack. If they poke their heads out, if they stay in the substrate, they're like eating poop and stuff, then they're fine. Like if you have goldfish or if you have cichlids, then they're going to be picking up mouthfuls of the substrate, right? And then they're going to be chewing on it and kind of spitting it out, and they're going to be opportunists. They're going to be looking for little worms as a snack, right? In a shrimp tank, nothing preys on them. So they can live in there, they can be in there and kind of doing their thing. But in the shrimp tank, what you want to do is have something like this, or just put your food down here on the bottom, on the, the glass substrate, where you can see, you can put food in something like this. This is just like a little glass petri dish thing. And again, like super cheap, I got three of these guys off Amazon for like $7. So, if you're making if you're making a shrimp rack, a breeding rack, you could put one of these in a closet. Like this footprint is pretty small. And, shrimp are prolific breeders. They make a lot of babies, and they're very popular. You probably make a good, side gig out of it, just breeding shrimp. I'm not doing it for that. I just love these guys, and I want to have them. I want to have a good colony going to propagate to other tanks. But so Yeah. So what's the point of this? Like having no substrate. You can take everything out of here. You can move it around if you're having some kind of problem, with something like you need to clean your sponge filters every once in a while. They will get like loaded up with dirt and poop and all that stuff. So you just take it out and then you just kind of squeeze it out, either like in your water change water or just kind of squeeze it out under the tap for a minute. And it's fine. It's like if you have chlorinated, if you have chlorinated tap water, it's fine. If you just squeeze it out under the tap for like a minute and then pop it back in, it's fine. It's not going to kill everything in the sponge filter. It's going to bounce right back. But if you're feeding your shrimp in something like this, and you can see exactly how much they're eating every day, you don't want to overfeed your shrimp and you don't want to underfeed your shrimp. So you can take a little petri dish, something like this, pop it in there, put the food in here. The shrimp will definitely find it. If they're hungry, they will go straight to it. And then you're going to know exactly how much they're eating. And then you aren't going to get like a big colony of detritus worms that are going to be competing with your shrimp for food, because the shrimp will not eat detritus worms. They aren't going to fight the detritus worms for food. They're just going to sit there and watch as the detritus worms just come out and eat all of the food that you put in there for them, because they're hanging out in the substrate. So would I recommend just having sponge filters in a shrimp breeder tank? I wouldn't. If you want to just do a giant, a sponge, just a sponge filter, I would do a Matten filter. So what that is where you have one huge piece of sponge that runs across one whole side of the tank, and then it's the same kind of principle where the water gets circulated because it gets pulled in and then pushed out the top, and then it kind of circulates in the tank. But if you do that, that's going to add a lot of cost to your tank. This is going to be way cheaper. Sponge filters are cheap. Like you can get really good sponge filters, like off of Amazon for like super cheap. A bunch of them. Or if you go to like your big box like pet store, like Petco or PetSmart or whatever, you can get a good size sponge filter for like $7 or something like that. Whereas like a big chunk of foam that is going to be big enough to cover one whole side of the tank, that's going to cost you. So yeah, I would recommend getting some kind of a thermometer, because like I said, shrimp, like once it gets up into the 80s, they're not happy. Like they're going to be sort of like burning up. They're not going to be happy. So it's the middle of May right now, currently at the time of filming this. I'm going to let this guy sit for a month, and I'm going to let all of the all of the algae and the all of the biofilm, all that stuff. I'm gonna let this is water change water. I took water change, or like did some gravel vacuuming from another tank, got some of the mold, the poop, the beneficial bacteria, all that stuff from the gravel from another tank, and then I put it in here, and it's currently cycling. In fact, I'm going to test it to see where the nitrites are at right now, because there's no ammonia in here, but I think I'm pretty positive there is nitrites in here. And when there is nitrites, you don't really want to add shrimp just yet. you want to wait until the nitrites are gone, and then you're into the nitrates. You have nitrates and not nitrites. Um, so yeah, I would say the essentials is going to be your filtration. Uh, you gotta have filtration. It's just like you gotta have filtration in your tank. You can't have any kind of a tank without any filtration in it, no matter what it is. And then let's go on to things like sort of optional upgrades. So once you have your water in here, you either want to take some tank water from another tank, or you want to add one of those like starter things, like the starter kind of solution where it kickstarts the nitrogen cycle going in there. Or you I would say either take some dirty tank water from another tank, or add the starter kind of stuff to get that going. And then what you can do is you can just add you can sort of feed your tank like you would normally do. Like you can just take some like little flake food or whatever and then just add it. And then that's going to create kickstart that nitrogen cycle and get it going and sort of get it to the level where you would have it like if you were feeding every day. And so this is going to be another kind of optional add-on, but this is something that people in the shrimp community really like this stuff. And then this is just bacteria powder, and it just adds the kind of like bacteria stuff that, oh geez, just lost a bunch of it. It's going to add the bacteria stuff that a shrimp like to eat. So you can feed babies, you can feed baby shrimp this stuff, but if you just kind of dose it into the tank, get all this stuff off my fingers. You can just dose it into your tank, and then it's going to sort of set up and then create that nice biofilm that is going to coat all the surfaces. And then that's another reason why you want like substrate, and then you want things like this, like a piece of cholla wood or cholla cactus that will get the nice biofilm on it, and then get some moss going on it, some algae, things like that. And so you want that stuff. And then also things like this, like these little alder, I think those are alder cones, or like cinnamon bark, like almond leaves, different kind of stuff like this. Like this is going to grow the biofilm on it, and it's also going to have a beneficial effect on the pH. And again, like none of this stuff is very expensive, but it's the optional upgrades, right? So I would say that the thermometer, these are super cheap. I like these thermometers. I think this is like $3, $3.99. Thermometer, filtration, essential, optional upgrades, all this other stuff. Another thing that I like is this stuff, is spirulina powder. You can feed this to pretty much everybody. Like if you look at the backs, if you look at the ingredients on on like the back label of a lot of fish food, you're typically going to find the spirulina powder as one of the ingredients. And then this is food grade, like this is meant for humans. You would put this stuff into your smoothie, or whatever, like when you make your, or just whatever, right? You can take, they make it in pill form so that you can take it just as a supplement. So it's like a health supplement, right? And then this is just, it's a blue-green algae, not blue-green algae like slime algae. That is a different thing, totally, bad. Don't want that in your tank. This is like a marine blue-green algae that is, if this stuff will start to coat the substrate and like rocks and stuff like that. If you have like lava rocks, like porous, different kinds of like porous rocks or whatever, it's something that you can feed to your fish. It's something that you can feed to yourself. And again, like baby shrimp will like this stuff. And rinse this in here, get it off my hands. But it will start to sort of colonize the tank, and then you can get that kind of like green carpet of algae that's like really desirable for, well, I guess like goldfish, like people with goldfish, like they love having a nice green algae carpet in their tank. And this is maybe the kind of stuff that you would scrub off of, like if you do get a lot of algae going in your tank, you want to scrub it off one side so that you can at least see in, and then see how your little critters are doing inside the tank. But everybody eats that stuff. Like literally everybody. And it also is going to, again, like help with the nitrates and nitrites, ammonia, like all that stuff. It's going to eat that stuff, and everybody is going to be eating it. So just another little optional upgrade. And then like a big bag like this is not much. It's like $8 for a big bag of spirulina powder. So another thing that you're probably going to want, like I think everybody should have one of these, is a little, just a measuring cup type of thing. And I like this because if you go to the pet store, or wherever, then you see that they have those boxes that like they pop onto the side of the tank, and then they will like take the fish out or whoever and then put it into the box and have it, in there while they're getting it ready to go. With shrimp, they're way more sensitive to changes in the water, like the water hardness, the pH, the temperature, all kinds of things like that. So typically, if you get shrimp from a pet store, you're probably way safer, with like just putting the bag in and floating them in there like you normally would with another type of fish. Like if you just got, I don't know, like some tetras or something, you just put the bag in there and let it float and kind of come up to temperature, and then you dump it. You're probably safe like most of the time if the place where you're getting them from, or if you get them from a breeder, if you can find a local breeder who is breeding some kind of shrimp, go to that guy. Definitely go to that guy, because those shrimp are they're not going to be anywhere near as stressed out. They're going to be in better health and like not sick, and just like a lot of people who get shrimp, they get them imported from places like Taiwan. and they're super stressed out. They're in bad shape. You know, they've been flying across the world for like however long it takes to 14 hours or whatever to fly from Taiwan. And then they've been sitting on a tarmac, you know, like they're stressed out and they are sick and just not happy. And then they, you know, they pop them right into their tank, and then you go and you're like, oh, I want that one. And then you get it, and then you take it and put it in a bag, and then you know, you bring it home. Like that's a real shrimp killer. That's a good way to kill your shrimp, is by changing the water, you know, changing the water parameters, and be like, these just showed up from Taiwan. Look, you've got buried females in there and all that. Oh yeah, I want that one, and then you take it home. It's like that's a really good way to kill shrimp, right? Um, so what you want to do, long long explanation. What you want to do is to take something like this, and then you put the shrimp into with your bag. You put them into here. You open up the bag, like put it so that the sides are coming down, and then you take some kind of a little line. You know, you just take a little hose, and they call it like a drip acclimator. I don't have one right here to show you, but it basically you you set the you set the little guy to have it so that drip drip drip. You're taking the water in the tank, and then you're mixing it with the water that they're in, and it's going to bring it up to temperature. They're going to get used to the water hardness, the you know, all that, right? So you can, if you're, you know, if you have a tank rack going, you can pop this onto the side, right? And then just put that, you know, uh, you can like either have it inside where it's kind of getting up to temperature slowly, or you can have it down here, and then you can just kind of drip, 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 and then you're gradually kind of acclimating them and getting them used to what your water parameters are and the temperature, and they're just gonna, you know, relax from their scary, scary journey from Taiwan. Um, so yeah, okay. Getting back to other things that you probably will need, aside from like optional upgrades and stuff like that. I cannot recommend enough a good water testing kit. So once you get your nitrogen cycle going, if you have plants in the tank, um, the plants are going to be soaking up ammonia. They're going to be, um, that's like the thing that they're going to go for first is the ammonia, right? And if there was one thing that I would say to add to your tank, aside from just some places for them to kind of hide and hang out, and you know, to do their thing, and eat their like biofilm and stuff like that off of, it would be to add some kind of like either a chunk of moss that's like floating around. Like I've got, you know, in here I have, yeah, I've got like my flame moss going, and some baby tears and Cuba going in there. But in fact, I'll show you. I'll put one of my little tank buddy guys in there. Um, the, the one thing that you really really need if you want to keep your shrimp alive and safe and happy and healthy is you're going to need aside from filtration, is you're going to need a good water testing kit. And I don't like the testing strips as much because they're just so inaccurate. They're like it is nice to where you just have one little testing strip that you pop them in there, kind of swish it around for a second and take it out. And then it has like all the things right there. You can see the ammonia and the nitrate, and water, all that stuff that's right there. You can look at it. Those things are garbage in terms of actually testing the water quality with any kinds of accuracy. What you really want is you want something like this. And I am certain, I probably shouldn't have, this stuff turns like blue or purple depending on the level of nitrites that are in here. So it's not really going to affect it too much, but first try. So what you do is you fill it up to the line, right? And then you're going to take 5 drops of this and put it in here. Just turn it upside down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's actually a lot better than I thought. I thought it was going to have a lot more nitrites in there. So you can see that it is turning purple. And then I don't actually have the scale thing to show you exactly what that means, like how many parts per million or whatever that is. But I know that means that there's still nitrites. And then you're actually supposed to let this sit for like 5 minutes and kind of develop its color. So that's actually higher. That's kind of more like where I expected it to be, like in terms of where it's at on the nitrogen cycle. So basically, if you are setting up a tank, you're really going to want to wait about a month. You're going to want to wait about a month to get things really going, because like you're going to have the biofilm stuff, the algae, everything kind of growing on the rocks, the like stuff like this that they like to hide in and kind of just do their thing. You really want no nitrites too, because nitrites, although they are less toxic than ammonia, because ammonia is super toxic. Ammonia is toxic to everybody. Humans, fish, shrimp, whatever. Nitrites are almost as toxic. When you get into the nitrates are not really as big of a deal. If you have really high nitrates, like, I don't want to actually throw any numbers out there because there's kind of a lot of debate on what is safe in terms of nitrate level in a tank, especially if you have a lot of plants and stuff like that. It can be sort of like a warning, like if you have a lot of nitrate, it probably means that you're either overstocked in terms of like the fish or shrimp or whatever you have in your tank. Shrimp don't put out a ton of waste. They do love to like constantly eat, and like sort of pick at the like biofilm and stuff like that. So they like kind of constantly just let out a little bit of waste. But they aren't, big producers of waste like a goldfish or something like that. But they're sensitive. They're very sensitive as far as like algae eaters go. If you're trying to get some kind of like a cleanup crew going to eat algae and stuff like that in your tank or whatever, the shrimp are one of the most sensitive in terms of water quality. So you really want your nitrites to be at 0. And then you want your nitrates to be somewhere, okay, I will throw out a number. You want your nitrates to be somewhere in the 20 to 50 parts per million. I think it's parts per million. Yeah, you want your nitrates to be somewhere in like the 20 to 50, maybe 90, parts per million range, depending on there's a lot of debate out there. Like there are people who say, oh, once you get to like 25, as far as nitrates go, then the babies aren't going to survive. Like the babies are too sensitive. Yeah, yeah, like you don't want high nitrates, but you also don't want no nitrates. Because if you have no nitrates, then you're asking for things like blue-green slime, bacteria, like there's different types of things that will colonize the tank that are sort of opportunistic, where if you have plants in there and then the plants are doing their things, plants need nitrates. Plants use nitrates to build roots and leaves and stems and for growth. And they also want like phosphates, especially if like flowering plants love phosphates. So you want some nitrates. You want a little bit of nitrates. You want them to be, I mean, ideally like right there at 20. 20 is perfect. 20 parts per million or whatever. That's like the ideal number, I guess. But you do need some. You do need some. So like people who do like reverse osmosis water, and then they strip everything out of that water, and they need to add the minerals back in. And then you need some nitrates. So I don't know if that means that they add nitrates back in, but it's part of the natural, fish cycle. So one other thing, so I wanted to show off this thing. So this is a USB air pump. I've seen people so these are popular with shrimp people too. So if you have like a power strip like this, I just grabbed this one because this is a good example of like a modern power strip where you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outlets, right? 6 electrical outlets for whatever, but you're also going to have 2 of these little USB things on there. So you don't want like multiple ones like this. You don't want like more than one power strip going on one outlet. But you do, like you can have one of these going and then power a whole bunch of tanks like this. Like you could have one big air pump going and, power all of the filtration stuff. For a rack of these guys, like I got this thing. This is a very heavy duty rack. Like these shelves. These are rated for, I want to say it's 800 pounds a shelf. And then they have like steel mesh that's like reinforcing in here, like under. And then I ripped down some 1/2 inch MDF because they say that it's like 800 pounds for the shelf, but it needs to be evenly distributed. You can't just set the tank down on the wire because it creates a shear force that, you need it to like distribute it evenly. But if you have, like 4 tanks on here, 4 10 gallons, or 1 giant tank on here, this can hold 800 pounds. But I would make sure that you're distributing your tanks evenly so you don't have any like one spot where it's going to push through there. But okay, so I forgot what I was going to say about this. So with the USB air pumps, they're pretty quiet. First off, I don't know if you can hear this air pump going in the back here. It's a very inexpensive one. I could have a bunch of just little air pumps going, or one bigger one, and then split it a few different ways, have it going to a few different tanks, or just have like one little USB air pump per tank. You can take these guys and then you can hang them from something. Like if you have a rack like this, like some kind of shelving unit, you can hang them from something like a little chain, like some fishing line or something, it will be silent. You will not hear this thing at all because it's doing its vibration thing inside its little case, hanging from something in the air. It'll be totally silent. And then these don't use as much power, like, something like this. You could power a whole bunch of these things without overloading the circuit on that one outlet. And have like a giant rack, like a lot of tanks going with each one having their own little devoted pump. And then, like turn these sideways and then have like one light going over it. I'm not even using a light because this room that I'm in gets a good amount of sunlight. So basically all I'm doing in here, there's no heater, there's no lights. It's just going to get natural light in here, and it's going to get the, the temperature, the ambient temperature from my house. So yeah, I think that's going to be it, you guys. I think that's all that I wanted to talk about. But you could set up something like this for, I would say, like, even with all of the add-ons, like I got some of these little boot trays things from, I think this is from IKEA. But you just get these at the hardware store or wherever. These are just nice because if you're doing stuff in the tank and you get your scrubby or whatever, and you're like scrubbing some algae off the front of the tank, you just take it, put it on the side, or like a net for like fish or whatever. You don't really worry about the water damaging anything or anything like that. So, but for everything, I'm positive that you could do a shrimp breeder tank with everything and for less than $100, and not including shrimp, of course, because you're probably going to want like $100 worth of shrimp to get a good colony started. Like you want probably ideally at least 10 to start. If you're doing like Caridina or Neocaridina, you probably want at least 10, or even like, sorry, my camera ran out of battery there. So I realized that this is getting into a super long video. I guess I had more stuff to say about shrimp tanks than I thought I did. I actually went to the store and grabbed one more thing. So yeah, I grabbed some Anubias, some of these little guys where they're in the pots, and these are perfect shrimp buddies. Sometimes you see those other ones where they have like driftwood or like a lava rock or something, and then they have a little plant that's tied to it, and those are fantastic. But these are also great too because the rock wool or lava rock or driftwood or whatever, it's all going to have all that good beneficial bacteria in it from like an established aquarium. So, and then this is like, these are, the shrimp don't care. They don't care if it's in rock wool, if it's in a little net pot, and if it's not quite as aesthetic, they don't mind. And they also gave me some Rotala, but this is what you want. You want some fast growers in the top, like some Rotala, some duckweed, don't get duckweed, some red root floaters, and then you want some slow growers, some like more ornamental kind of stuff down here in the bottom, like the flame moss or the Monte Carlo or some Anubias or something like that. And then they're gonna, shrimp and plants just, they love each other and they keep each other happy and healthy. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it. I've realized it's a really long video, but you stuck through it till the end, so yeah, that's gonna be it. Thanks, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.